Hi, D2BA Artsy friends and fans. Michelle Houghton here. I have a very fast holiday card for you. Now, you might be saying to yourself, okay, I think the holidays just happened, and you would be correct. But the current monthly challenge over at D2BA Artsy is to create a card featuring your favorite season or a project. So my favorite season happens to be Christmas, and so I am going to use all of these wonderful Christmas papers from D2BA Artsy. And one of the features that I love most about the D2BA Artsy papers is that all of them have this little strip that has the labeling on one side. On the other side, they've made a point of making them kind of a decorative trim. And so all of them have fun colors and patterns, and I think most of us as crafters try to be very frugal on how we use our scraps and being conscious of using those little bits and pieces. And so I felt like this would be a perfect opportunity to create a super simple holiday card. So I've gathered up a bunch of the holiday papers from the D2BA Artsy set. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off these edges, and you're going to get to see the whole process. It's really fast and easy. And this is something that you could do over time as you collect scraps. They wouldn't have to be holiday papers. And so this is something you could do and kind of start creating a stash for next year. But it just makes it a really, really easy and fun kind of pattern. And they go really, really fast. Now, typically I speed videos up just so that they don't last super long, because I know a lot of people don't have a long time to watch a tutorial. So this is sped up, but it's only sped up by about 2. The actual card took me about 15 minutes to make from start to finish. If I was doing this and trying to create multiples at once, I actually could make probably 4 or 5 cards in about 20 minutes. This technique is super easy. So then I've got a piece of plain white cardstock. Again, this could be any color, so it truly can be scrap. And then I've got all these little strips, and I'm cutting them down just into smaller segments. If I want to do multiple trees, because I'm going to create a tree out of this, I could use longer strips and a bigger piece of cardstock that I'm going to cut down. But I really was only aiming for one. So, single sheet of cardstock. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to start taping these strips and just lining them up. I'm purposefully trying to be a little bit random in selecting a polka dot and then the holly leaves and then maybe a different polka dot, some red versus green, some stripes here and there, and trying to do them so that they're not exactly in order. So I wouldn't come back around to the stripes again above the green dots. I'd pick something else. And then I'm also going to have some of them break partway through the center so that you have pieces. So it's not necessarily a full strip. Some of these are personal choices. I like the feel of the randomness. So I purposefully try not to create an exact pattern. And I also kind of try to break up the uniformity of it. But I'm just stacking these up one on top of the other. They don't overlap. They knock right up against each other. So it fills up fairly quickly, but you could see you could do kind of a bigger chunk of paper. I'm focusing in and doing, since I'm aiming for a triangular shape. I'm focusing down the center of this little piece of cardstock. And then I'm truly going to eyeball this. I can make a template and cut a bunch of these out at once, but I'm kind of eyeballing it. I have a little spot on my cutter that I'm using to use, like I come right to the tip of where I just cut, and then I try to eyeball the center. And then I just want to cut off that little bit of extra white cardstock at the bottom, and I have this beautiful little triangle with all these different patterned papers all lined up. And again, these are scraps. I wouldn't necessarily get to use these. I could use them as trim on a card or a scrapbook page. But it makes this fun little kind of tree shape. So I'm going to gather up a few more things. I'm going to use a paper strip, and I'm also going to use a sentiment from a D2BA Artsy stamp set. These are the doodle poinsettias. And I've got this, making sure that's going to fit. When you watch me make cards, it's always a little haphazard. I don't do a whole lot of planning ahead of time, so a lot of times you'll see mistakes happen. You'll see me experimenting and then going back and trying something again. I wasn't even sure if the sentiment would fit, so I did kind of take a look at that first. And I'm hoping that my hand stamping will work. Sometimes I make a big mess of that, but in this case it worked fairly well, and I'm not going to have to redo that. And then I cut one little tiny strip of paper for a tree trunk. Get that on the paper, and then I'm going to use some foam tape to pop my actual tree shape kind of up and off the card base, just to give it a little bit of dimension because it's a fairly simple card. I'm not adding a bunch of other things. I've got this fun pattern paper tree, but really it's just the triangle. Readjust the trunk, of course, me untaping and retaping things. And then I decided it needs a little bit of sparkle, and obviously that white card base is pretty plain. So I wanted to come in and add just a touch more. So I'm just going to add some dots with some red and green glitter glue. Of course, again, as random as I can make them. It's hard to create randomness, I think. It's actually harder versus than doing a regular pattern. So I've got the green, and I'm going to add some red. Thanks so much for stopping by the Dare to Be Artsy YouTube channel. We're just starting this channel and building up our collection of videos for you. If you haven't had a chance, please like the channel, and that way you're going to get whenever we've got a new video, you're going to get that in your inbox. It also helps us get kind of promoted and get up in the ranks so other people can find us. We'd really appreciate that. If you ever have questions about a video, please post those underneath and we'll try to get back to you right away. If you haven't had a chance, I also do a lot of Copic work over at my blog, www.scrapweaver.com. I'd love to see you over there, and you can get some more information on my live classes and Copic information. Thank you so much for joining us. And from the team here at Dare to Be Artsy, we dare you this week to be artsy.